Okay, few seconds. Okay, we are live. Welcome back, everyone. This session is about youth leadership at the local level and regional, taking action in our own backyards and Minnesota, Wisconsin area. So today, this morning I have with me Margaret Nalen. She is a sophomore at Osceola High School. Apart from working on environmental projects, she loves exploring nature, playing the saxophone, and spending time with friends and family. I also have Maple Williams, who is a youth climate justice advocate and activist from Two Harbors, Minnesota, currently campaigning to stop Line 3. And lastly, Isabelle Wong. She's a senior at Apple Valley High School and will be spending the year abroad in Taiwan. Besides organizing important issues such as environmental justice and education inequality, she loves sipping on boba and reading books by the fireplace. That sounds like a great idea to me. So with that, Margaret is going to start her presentation, and the rest of us will just shut our videos off. So thank you.
All right, hello everybody. Like Monica introduced me, my name is Margaret Nalen. I'm a sophomore at Osceola High School, and I'm also a member of the Jane Goodall Institute's National Youth Leadership Council and the co-founder of the St. Croix Valley Sustainability Club and the student representative of Standing Cedars. All right, I'm going to present my screen now. So here we go, hopefully. All right, so as youth, we are often asked this huge question of what do you want to be when you grow up, like Natalie talked about. And there's so many different things, and you're like being asked like, where do you want to go to college and all of that stuff. And it can be really hard to figure out what we're interested in. And so when you are trying to figure that out, you kind of ask yourself a couple of questions, and you try to figure out like what you want to do and what you really want to take part in. And so for me, that has always been nature. And I think that everybody, you know, whether it's like you like golfing on a golf course or you love hiking or any of that stuff, you know, we all come back to nature. We all have this thing that ties us into nature. And we are like constantly trying to, you know, find ways to help us enjoy nature, but also to protect nature. And there's a lot of small things that you can do, and there's a lot of big things that you can do. Some of the small things, just to go into it, like maybe you love soccer. How can you incorporate using nature into that? Like maybe you use a plastic water bottle every single time that you play a soccer game. Switch that up and use a reusable water bottle. Maybe you love fashion, like you love going shopping, that's just what you like to do. Try to stay away from fast fashion, use clothes from thrift stores, and really like look into the brands that you're buying from. Like don't buy like thousands of dollars online each year. Buy like quality stuff that's gonna last so it doesn't end up in a landfill. And then we also have this thing where maybe nature is just, that's what you want to do. You want to be an environmental activist, and that is amazing. And you don't have to know what you want to be when you grow up, because you can do it right now. So on this next slide, these are some things that I have kind of learned as I've gone through and done different projects and just have really figured out that, you know, like this is something, and these don't just apply to the environment, you can do these anyways. So step one, get inspired. Find inspiration. Like social media is actually a great place for inspiration. You got to be careful, but most of the time it's really great. And books, literature, movies, and of course just going out into nature. You can learn so much from nature just from being out there. So that's step one, get inspired. Two, reach out. Chances are you're not the only one who is interested in that stuff. So I'm part of the St. Croix Valley Sustainability Club. I co-founded it with my friend Tia, and I reached out to her and was like, hey Tia, I'm interested about plastic pollution. You're interested about it, let's do something and let's get more people involved. And so by doing that, we have 27 members, which is pretty good because our high school only has maybe like 500 people or so. So we've really just done that, and it's really fun. And, like we have that group now. But that would have never happened if I hadn't reached out. And then also organizations, I'm part of Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots group. So that's been really good to know. But you also, by going and reaching out to organizations of things that you're interested in, you can really get to know different people, and that leads to other things. And your path is just like by taking a chance, by applying to something, or just by sending an email. You never know what's going to happen. 3, when you're doing projects, get started. That's the hardest part. It's so difficult to figure out, oh, I'm gonna have to take this chance, I gotta get going, when you first set out on the hike. I've got the hiking picture here, didn't take that, that's from the internet. But you just have to go out and do it, and just get going, and then see where it takes you. And then the 4th thing, which is very difficult, we're high schoolers, we've got a lot going on, but you have to remember why you started. So when it gets rough, because it will get rough, it always gets rough, remember why you set out on your journey, what makes you love that thing. And if you lose sight of that, it's so hard to get back up. But if you keep that close to you, then everything will fall into place. So those are my 4 steps that I've used to take action. I know Isabelle and Maple, who are also on this call, have other ones that they have probably used. They've probably used these too. So I'm going to pass it off to them. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Margaret. At this time, we'll have Maple go ahead and share her screen. And if you have some slides to share, that's great. If not, we are just excited to hear what you have to say.
I actually do not have any slides. I wrote a few things down, but I'll just be
awesome. No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so hi, I'm Maple Williams. I use any pronouns really. I am, as she said, a youth activist and advocate who is currently campaigning with Climate Generation, and I'll be talking about my experience with environmental conservation and getting involved with climate justice issues. So, I suppose what really interested me in environmental conservation was that I love the environment and its people, and I love nature, and I want the nature that I grew up with to be the same, or at least similar in the future. And through my own self-education and research, I found out that our future wasn't going to be like this, isn't going to be like this. And that without environmental conservation, without climate justice, it really isn't possible. And both of those are necessary. It's necessary to realize that our natural resources are limited and that they need to be conserved and in the right ways. So how I became involved in environmental conservation is that I did my own self-education, which I already said, but that's like a huge part of it. And through that, I also did petitions. I signed petitions. I went to protests like Fridays for Our Future. And that at those protests is really where I got inspired in getting more involved with environmental conservation and climate justice. I saw all these people who were my own age, who were like youth, up there speaking, and they were so powerful, and their words were so powerful, and they had such an influence on everybody. And then I was like, wow, I want to do that somehow. So then after that, I like really got involved with like bigger steps, I guess. I joined Enviro Club at my high school. I also joined Duluth Youth Climate Justice, which I'm part of. And then through them, I found out about Climate Generations programs. They have a networking program and then a campaigning program. And then I filled out an application for both. I got into their campaigning program, which is very exciting. And now I'm part of that. I'm a youth campaigner, and I'm campaigning around Line 3, mostly educating on the issue and then also building support for water protectors. And I'm doing that through like outreach, spreading awareness, that kind of thing. And then I have workshops planned for like the near future. And yeah, so what I do in my everyday life to help the environment is I just really think about what I'm doing. I give back to the environment. I feel like that's like a huge part, not just like lessening your impact on the environment, but also like giving back. So I like compost. I make sure not to waste water, waste food, as composting is. I don't mow my lawn, which like is kind of good for pollinators and stuff. And then yeah, so that's like a little action that I do. And then how I suggest students get involved and start taking action would be, first of all, self-educating. Educate yourself, do research on stuff you're passionate about. I would say sign petitions, go to protests if you can. Workshops are a huge thing I would suggest. There are a bunch of good workshops you can find. Just like anything, I go to anything that involves like the environment. Like environmental justice is like a huge intersectional issue, and there's so many different aspects, and I always find out something new when I go to workshops or sign petitions. You can find out about like new different issues that you didn't know about. But yeah, that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Maple. So we have some questions that are starting to roll in. So before we, get to Isabelle here, if you do have questions, you could go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We should have just a couple minutes at the end for that. So Isabelle, you are up. So if you want to share your video and audio with us, please do. And it looks like you are on mute. If you kind of below the main screen towards the middle, there's a microphone button. Go ahead and click on that to unmute yourself. Okay, maybe she's having some audio problems, but I think what we'll go ahead and do in the meantime is there are some questions. So if Margaret and Maple will join me back with their audio and video, I would like to ask just a couple questions here. So this one is from Brianna. This for Margaret. What are some good organizations to join? Do you think?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on what you're interested on. There's really an organization for anything. So just doing like a quick Google search, like environmental organizations is great. Some a lot of organizations actually have like leadership councils for youth and stuff. So if you're interested in the environment, I would recommend Earth Echo International, which is a organization that has a youth leadership council, and you get to be involved in a lot of stuff. If you live in Minnesota, Maple and Isabelle definitely can talk about this with Climate Gen. Super cool organization, a lot of youth power, really awesome. The Jane Goodall Institute has so much, just so much stuff. There's so many different branches of it. I guess I'm a little biased because I'm part of it, but I really just love the Jane Goodall Institute. And then also places around here like SCRA is amazing. They're putting on this event today. Shoot them an email if you're interested in that stuff. So really just those are just a few of the many organizations that there are out there.
Thank you, Margaret. And unfortunately, we are having some audio issues with Isabelle, so we're just going to go ahead and continue with questions. The next one is really interesting. I thought it's very thoughtful. For either of you or all, do your parents always support you? And if not, how do you keep going through, even if your parents, support or not? And perhaps to family and friends and people around you. Do you feel like you have the support? And
Maple, do you want to go on this one?
Yeah, sure. Yes. I think the question was if I have support, right?
Yes, specifically, I think, we have some quite young folks on this conference, and perhaps their parents don't agree with some of the activism and some of the environmental things that they're very passionate about. So do you have any advice, or what's your experience with support either from your family or your parents? How would, you perhaps navigate that to keep going?
Yeah, I personally, I feel like I'm like a very like individualistic person. So like I really just support myself. My parents do support me, however. We have similar views. We're like all very like environmentally friendly, I guess. But if your parents don't support you, or like you don't want to have like a conversation about it, I guess, with them, or like you don't think they agree with you, just like finding people who also have the same like views as you, I guess, either at your school or like in any communities you're part of. Also like clubs, I feel very supported like in different like clubs, like clubs. I don't want to talk forever.
No, that's okay. Thank you. And I see that Isabelle is joining. Perhaps you're on your phone. Thanks for troubleshooting. We'll go ahead and take 5 minutes or so. We are so interested in hearing what you have to say as well. So a few minutes and then we'll pick up questions again. Thank you for your patience in figuring it out, Isabelle.
Yeah, thank you so much with your guys' patience as well. So I initially got started in politics as a whole during the surge of school shootings. I think a lot of people my age can relate to me on that. I initially got started like actually actively being involved in politics during my 8th grade year, which is and from there I went to go on to talk to my local representative, Erin May Quaid. And from there, she offered me an internship, and then I interned with her for like a couple weeks. And then from there, I also interned on her campaign, and that was a really great experience. And I was able to see what organizing looked like on a campaign electoral level, and I wanted to see what the action looked like once again in the legislature. So I entered with a senator the following year, my sophomore year of high school, and I realized that I wasn't seeing what I wanted happen within the legislature, because it was like every other day when I was watching the person I was interning for like fall asleep during his meetings and during like hearings and stuff, bill hearings. So that wasn't like really satisfying work for me because I wasn't seeing like the person that I was supposed to be supporting support what I and other people had wanted to support, because they were just falling asleep instead. But yeah, so from there, I was also connected to Isra Hersey, and she had been posting a lot about her org at the time. I think she was the national lead, and she had been posting about like opportunities within the local Minnesota org, which was Minnesota Youth Youth Climate Strike. There you go. That was the old name. We just rebranded, so that's the name that's in my mind. We are now Minnesota Youth for Climate Justice. And it was really nice because that local org was my introduction to a lot of new things. And although I had been introduced to the idea and to the climate crisis at a young age because I did go to a STEM school, I never really understood the impacts that it had on human life. So that's like a really big thing that happens to a lot of people where they only know stuff about environment, but then they forget about how it actually impacts real people. So when we think about things like the climate crisis, our initial response is to think about the lakes, to think about the earth. I really think that the earth is going to be fine because there's a lot, it's gone through a lot already, and yes, we should be caring about the earth, but the stuff that the climate crisis impacts the most is the real lives that it hurts. So currently, I am working with Climate Gen, who I got connected through Minnesota Youth for Climate Justice. And we got connected because we're partners with Climate Gen. And I applied for the position at Campaign's Cohort, similar to what Maple has. But my campaign that I've started is to talk about climate refugees and to specifically think about what we can do in our local municipal cities in that government. And so I'm trying to turn my hometown, Apple Valley, into a sanctuary city, which will bring a lot of benefits specifically for climate refugees, because according to The Guardian, by 2050, there's expected to be more than 150 million climate refugees. A sanctuary city, basically what it means is that local law enforcement doesn't work with the government to persecute undocumented immigrants. So that's a really big step if I was able to make that. And there's a petition that I'd love for people in the South Metro to sign. I don't know how I would put that in, but I will figure that out later. I guess one of the main things that I want people to remember when they're getting started is why they're getting started, and to remember that the climate crisis is going to affect Black and Brown people the most, and communities of color are already on the front lines. So make sure you understand what space you're in, and not to take up space, but also to give space and to raise those voices, because the Black and Brown communities have already been fighting for environmental justice long before a lot of people that are the most publicized. So I think that's a really important thing to remember, and you can get started by looking at local orgs, starting your own, and looking at your own high school and things like that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Isabelle. Very inspiring how you have really moved forward with something that you're passionate about. So if I will have all the panelists join me with our audio and video here, we'll go ahead and just ask a couple more questions. So it seems to be a common theme here. How do you get involved with some of these organizations like Climate Gen and Roots and Shoots? Are there websites? What are people's first steps if they want to find out more information and start to get involved?
a really quick and easy thing that they can do is just look at Instagram. A lot of people repost stuff from Climate Gen, from Yemen, from Minnesota Youth for Climate Justice, and things like that. So it's a really popular thing if you just look kind of, and also you can just look through tags and stuff, through hashtags, and that's pretty easy as well.
Awesome. Margaret, how about the Roots and Shoots program? What is that, and how did you become interested and active in it?
Yeah, so Jane Goodall is one of my absolute favorite people. She's just such a role model to me. So like Isabelle just said, I follow Jane Goodall Institute and Roots and Shoots on Instagram. So I realized like they were posting stuff about this National Youth Leadership Council. And I was like, what is that? It sounds cool. So I went to their website and realized that they have all of these Roots and Shoots groups all over the country. And it's just a bunch of kids that are doing environmental work and doing like social justice. There's so much like mental health. So the thing that I'm on is the National Youth Leadership Council, and it is a group of people that applied for it. And they we all like work together and do projects. It's actually the start of Roots and Shoots 30th anniversary this year. And I will throw the website down, but each year there's new applications. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll also throw out my information and like contact me or something, and like apply next year. It's really great.
Awesome. If you want to put your contact information then in the chat box, or the information for Roots and Shoots and application, please do. So just kind of wrapping up, one question. This is a question that I had myself. So environmental issues, sometimes it feels like an uphill battle. You win some, you lose some. And especially as I think about, pipelines and Maple, what you've been working on, how is it, and I'll ask this of all of you, how do you, keep your eye on the prize and stay motivated and keep moving forward, with your work and staying strong? Maple, I'll have you answer that one first to put you on the spot.
That's tough. I don't know. I guess I always think about like how there's so many people who like care about like different intersectional issues. And I just like think like, okay, we didn't make any like really big actions, like we didn't like that, but like there's like small actions, like I always think having told someone something and then like actually like understanding and like supporting that super big. Doesn't matter if like somebody in power does anything, like yeah, I'll just stop there. So
no, that's fine. I think I know exactly what you're saying. Essentially it's the small steps and those small victories and the support and knowing that you're not alone, in this. You don't have to change the world tomorrow, but keep pressing forward and take those small steps and victories. So Margaret, I'd like to ask you the same question. How do you stay strong and motivated?
For me, that has always been going out into nature. So whenever anything gets overwhelming, I go outside, I find water or a tree or something, and just remind myself like this is real. This is what this is why I'm doing this. And even if other people don't see that immediately, like I know that like we all have this connection, and it's kind of like a bigger connection to just the world around me. And yeah, it's just that's how I kind of stay centered through everything, especially during a pandemic.
Awesome. I agree. Time outside is very important. And if any of you haven't kayaked down the St. Croix River, I would do that. That's my place. Isabelle, last question there for you then. Same question. So how do you,
Is this working?
yes, we hear you. How
Okay,
do you
good.
stay motivated to reach your goals and your vision?
Yeah, so throughout all of this, I think one of my main things has been looking at the people that affects because I do have family overseas. I have family in Indonesia, which is one of the countries that is being hit the hardest by the climate crisis. They literally have to move their capital because Jakarta is literally about to sink underwater. So in a couple of years. So I think like thinking about that and thinking about how privileged I am to live this life and how I have to be raising those voices and I have to be speaking for people that aren't able to speak right now because I have to focus on other things and just thinking about what we can do here while I can use my voice and trying to remember that what Margaret and Maple said, knowing that like you're not alone, it's been really helpful to have different orgs supporting and especially like thinking about the adults that have been able to mentor me and thinking about like what I've learned from so many people and just like knowing that I am young, but like there's so much more work to do and I'm glad that I'm getting started on the work early.
Fantastic, thank you. So we are running just a few minutes behind, but I think it's well worth it to hear from each of you and to have some questions answered. So with this, this concludes our session. If the presenters here want to take a look through the Q&A and chat and maybe answer some of the questions that other folks had, we will reconvene here in the main stage to hear Re-Earth Initiative at 10:10. Until then, go ahead and visit the expo and go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.